I am back, and again, I want to thank Hehimetu Ra Enkamit for allowing me to share a little bit on the concept of full reparations at his book at this book party for the release of his book, new book on reparations. That is a welcome contribution to the work and action that we're doing now in America and also globally. For reparations, what is for reparations? For reparations is the international standard of reparations. Back in 2014, 2013, I came across this concept of full reparations and immediately understood that it was what we needed to press our repair demand on, particularly because it is an international standard. And that the standard in America, one, we did not have a legal standard. There's no legal standard for reparations in America. And the congressional standard for reparations in America is the Japanese Redress Initiative from the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. And their standard was $25,000 or $20,000, and the release of all political prisoners who were fighting against the internment, and the education, apology, and the education of the internment within American public schools. And certainly it was welcomed at the time, but also Japanese Americans understand today that that was not enough. So we can't use that standard, that congressional standard, for our repair. So I sought to establish the international standard. I testified before Congress and stated that only the highest standard of reparations can be utilized to address the totality of the crimes and injury that we suffered from over 400 years of America's genocide, enslavement, and apartheid policies against our community. Again, I want to share quickly, and I'm not going to spend as much time as I spent before on full reparations. In 1928, the Charles R. Factory case established the purpose of reparations globally. The Permanent Court of International Justice held out that the general and foundational rule for reparations is that reparations must, as far as possible, quote unquote, wipe out all consequences of the illegal act and reestablish the situation would have, in all possibility, had they have existed if that illegal act had not been committed. So in other words, when we struggle for reparations as African people around the globe, what we want to do is to wipe out all consequences of the 500-600 years of white supremacy, the chattelization wars on the continent, the enslavement in the Americas, the apartheid in the Americas and on the continent, colonialism on the continent, neocolonialism, ghetto colonialism in America. What are all the consequences that we suffer as a people as a result of those crimes? That's what reparations is designed to do. And the International Law Commission, I should have this, let me go back. And the International Law Commission, which is a body of experts that assist the United Nations, said that in order to wipe out all consequences, the state must engage in what they call full reparations. In Article 31 of the draft Articles and Responsibilities of the States for International Wrongful Acts, the responsible state is under an obligation. It's not just, they should, they are supposed to, they're under an obligation to make full reparations for an injury caused by the International Wrongful Act. And the International Wrongful Acts that we're talking about are crimes against humanity. In 2001, the World Conference Against Racism, the UN established conference, stated that transatlantic slave trade, enslavement, apartheid, colonialism were crimes against humanity. So there's no longer a choice. There's an obligation of these nations to engage in reparations, and that reparations must be full reparations. and with the goal of wiping out all consequences. And there's 5 components of full reparations on this side. One is cessation assurances guarantees of non-repetition. If the bad acts, the criminal acts are continuing, the first thing you must do is halt those acts. And you must put in place structures to ensure that they do not repeat themselves. You must reform or have a transformational institutional framework in place that ensures that these crimes do not rise up again. The second component is restitution. How do you return the people back to the way they would have been had you not engaged in these criminal acts in the first place? Well, that's where education, that's where economic programs come in. That's where we try to reclaim our identity, even a what we, test to determine where we came from on the continent of Africa. Those type of things are part of restitution. Compensation is a component of full reparations. What is a monetary necessity or need in order to help to wipe away the consequences, all consequences of those wrongful acts? Satisfaction, how do you return the dignity back to people whose dignity was eroded as a result of these criminal acts? Apologies feel the need of satisfaction or the goal of satisfaction. Markers, monuments, museums, curriculum changes, truth and reconciliation. These are things that fulfill the need of or the obligation of satisfaction. And then you have rehabilitation for the heart, mind, and spirit damage. We've undergone 400 years of historical trauma. Historical trauma is trauma directed at an entire people. It's not individual trauma. And we know that historical trauma is passed down transgenerationally, beyond 3 generations. And what is necessary to redress that the impact of that historical trauma that we experienced during enslavement, we experienced during apartheid or Jim Crow, and we experience today with police terror. So these are the 5 components of full reparations. And again, the purpose of full reparations is to wipe out all consequences. We don't want reparations to happen and we still are suffering from the consequences. And we know that those consequences cannot be wiped out in just one generation. So full reparations is a long-term process. When we utilize this standard, it's a long-term process to ensure that all of the impact of 500 years, 5 centuries of crimes committed against our people are rectified. And so, again, thank you for allowing me to share in this regards at this book party. Thank you, Dr. Uwa. Hehimetu Ra Enkamit. Thank you. Let me stop sharing here.